Body too correct. Oh no, Eddie man don't forget. Only go perfume. Oh collect. Oh wale. Oh one neck. Makam body too correct. Say she love me, and you love it. Sensima. Why they for Benzema? Why you want $1? Sensima. This kind dance you the dance. I'm doing the singing, you doing the dance. Oh you know. Why you wanna do me something?
Joy 99.7 FM.
Tonight, Parliament moves to enforce directive to General Legal Council to admit 499 students who insist they passed but denied admission into the Ghana School of Law.
I hereby direct that the Attorney General shall ensure that this resolution is carried through.
We cannot anticipate a breach if you disrespect the orders of Parliament. The consequences are there.
But does Parliament have the authority to direct the General Legal Council? We have the latest in this ensuing debate. And Top Story is brought to you by Vodafone. Together we can. My name is Ernest Minu. Tonight, Parliament is flexing its muscles against the Chief Justice-led General Legal Council, directing the institution to admit all 499 students denied admission into the Ghana School of Law. The students insist they passed the entrance exam, securing what they describe as the advertised 50% pass mark. They had dragged the school and the General Legal Council to court and filed a petition with Parliament. Well, today, Parliament took the unprecedented step to pass a resolution that seeks to compel the council to admit the students. In a debate on the issue, both sides of the political divide agreed that the General Legal Council must be compelled.
They created a certain marking scheme where you should have obtained 50% in each section, and that if, for instance, you got a higher mark in section B and a lesser mark in section A, although if it's added, you get more than 50, to them you don't qualify. Mr. Speaker, this, I humbly contend, is repugnant. Students are frustrated. Students are traumatized. This is not a matter of closing in. If you say 50% is the pass mark, so be it. Just as politicians, when we get it wrong, they tell us. We are telling Ghana Law School that they're continuously frustrating students. They are making the study of law unattractive.
I know that there are a lot of institutions in this country that are very conservative. But you see, with the kind of problems that we have as a country, you cannot keep a conservative position and expect to make progress. This idea, with the greater respect to the former Chief Justice, we will open up for anybody to become a lawyer. Who is anybody? Every Ghanaian matter, just as your son and daughters. It is not the sons of lawyers and doctors or politicians or the influential that have the only right to be able to have access to any profession in this country. If they don't know what to do, we can tell them that they must go and admit everybody who has passed before admission, before the next academic year starts. With this comment, Mr. Speaker, I hope that at least for once, this House, we can stand together and forget about which side you are, because this is something that is affecting all our constituents, regardless of which constituency they are coming from. It's affecting all of us.
You run open, transparent system. And if you recall our studies on the rule of law, the thing about rule of law is predictability and openness of the law. It must be predictable.
This is not a predictable rule, and we should not endorse it, and it cannot stand. And the law school should not be allowed to get away with it this time. I recall when they brought their legislation here, I stood for the law school. I defended the law school against all sorts of attacks. But when they are wrong, I will also point it out that they are wrong. And we must not allow their wrongdoing to stand. We must reverse it. All those who pass must be given the opportunity so that if they want to make new rules next year, they should make them, and they should let all the students who are going to write the exams know those new rules.
I therefore move that this House resolve to direct Ghana Law School, and for that matter the General Legal Council, to offer admission forthwith to all those who obtain the minimum pass mark in this 2021-2022 academic year, to enable them pursue their professional law program. Mr. Speaker, I so move.
So that is the Deputy Majority Leader, Alexander Afenyo-Markin, moving a motion in that debate. You had from Parliament. Let's go live now to the House and speak to correspondent Parker Wilson. Kwesi Parker Wilson, thank you for joining us here on Top Story. It appears from the voices that we had from the chamber, the MPs are unanimous on this issue. Hello, Parker, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Ernest, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Right, so it was clear this afternoon that the members of Parliament from both sides of the divide were unanimous in asking the General Legal Council to do what is needful. With one voice, they agreed that indeed what is being done to the 499 students were unconstitutional. So almost about 8 to 9 MPs across the divide expressed the same sentiment as we heard from Muntaka Mubarak, Alexander Afenyo-Markin, and the others. So the Speaker, the Deputy Speaker of Parliament, Joseph Owusu, who was in the Speaker's chair at the time, then subjected the motion to a vote, a voice vote. So when you put the question, it was obvious the entire House shouted, yes, indeed, they need to ask the General Legal Council to admit the 499 students. We can hear from Joseph Owusu.
All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. All against the motion, say no. The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. The Ghana General Legal Council is hereby directed to proceed and admit all the students who pass in accordance with the advertised rules of the examination. Under the General Legal Council Act, the Attorney General is the minister responsible, and the law says that he may give general directions. I hereby direct that the Attorney General shall ensure that this resolution is carried through. Thank you.
So that is what happened there in Parliament with the Deputy Speaker directing the Attorney General to move to ensure that the students are admitted. But Parker, this directive is to the Attorney General for enforcement. Are all MPs convinced that this is enforceable?
Well, some express a little bit of doubt whether indeed this directive will be carried through. In fact, James Kluchi-Avedji, being the Deputy Minority Leader, expressed a similar concern, and even Mr. Mahama Yaga as well. Now, the point Mahama Yaga made was that if it's about money for them to open access, and for that matter, it would be very impossible on the part of the GLC to comply with the directive. Parliament can do something about it. But James Kluchi-Avedji's point was that since the General Legal Council perhaps under the judiciary, there's a little bit of a challenge somewhere there. However, the members of the House maintain that it's just possible for the DLC and, of course, the Attorney General to ensure full compliance of the law. We can listen to the Deputy Minority Leader when he advanced his argument on the floor of the House.
The motion has been moved, seconded, and adopted. What do we do to ensure that the General Legal Council follow and implement the decision that we have just taken. If they fail, what will be the sanctions? So, Mr. Speaker, we should take note of that also.
We are not anticipating that.
And so that is what transpired in the House. But Parker, generally, what are members saying about the decision to let the Attorney General enforce this, and also about what is ensuing in court? We know that the students have taken this matter up in court today.
Well, so the issue of the court did not even come up at all on the floor of the House. The point the members of Parliament made, and in fact, even after sitting, I engaged some of the members of the House, and they were of the view that you cannot put up a variation of the marks after the examination, because for every examination there are rules that guide the conduct of an exam. And so if before the examination the rules were clear that you obtain 50% and above, you qualify into the Ghana School of Law, that must be maintained. You don't now tweak or try to vary or try to apply technicalities to deny persons or students who have gained admission or who have obtained the 50% mark as earlier advertised. But the issue was about whether indeed the Parliament had the authority to direct the GLC, which is also under the judiciary, which is an arm of government, to do what is right. Deputy Majority Leader Afenyo Makion, who today led this motion and successfully the members of the House adopted, has a different view, that it doesn't constitute interference of the work of the judiciary. GLC is a statutory board, and so they work purely administrative. And so Parliament has an oversight responsibility and representing the people of this country, including the 499, has every right to ask them to ensure the admission of these individuals.
In fact, he says that there will be consequences if the General Legal Council fails to apply. Let's listen to this interview he granted you.
Well, I think the terms of our resolution are very clear. We are not directing the judiciary to do something irregular. The directive is to the General Legal Council. And we are saying that they, as a body, advertised the terms of the examination to the extent that there had been reliance on same. Legitimate expectation had been so created, and that they cannot post facto vary set terms. Right. Our directive is to the effect that they should respect those terms. Once you say that 50% is the minimum mark to pass for the law school, so be it. You cannot now introduce some specifics as to how you want the 50% to be obtained. Now you say your exam is in 2 sections, you should have gotten 50% in this section.
Section B.
Please, how did you come to the conclusion that somebody would get a certain mark out of 100%? So it's a simple matter, and we believe that if our lawyers who are members of the General Legal Council and our Chief Justice, who is the head of the General Legal Council, and they respect the rule of law, and they know that one key thing about rule of law is certainty, there should be no problem at all in complying with this resolution. We are not interfering in a judicial process. We are not interfering in the work of the judiciary. Parliament, with its oversight mandate, is exercising same, and we are acting in the public interest. If Parliament, as representative of the people, cannot have a word in this, then I don't see how democracy can operate.
I see, but correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, I mentioned that the General Legal Council is under the judiciary, which is an independent body of arm of government as well. Parliament is an arm of government as well, and the executive. So there are those who are saying that this is clearly an interference.
Don't oversimplify the matter by saying General Legal Council is under the judiciary and that you are interfering in the work of an arm of government. You are oversighting.
Okay.
And when you oversight, one of your duties is to direct the wrong to be corrected. And that's what we've done. Any person who is paying attention to it will have no difficulty at all in what we have done.
The speaker was clear that the AG should ensure the full compliance of it. How soon should this be done?
AG is a supervising minister. Our directive was to the effect that same must be enforced forthwith.
Sure.
And the AG should ensure that the needful is done.
What if there's a breach of the directive?
Well, we cannot anticipate a breach. The laws of this country are clear. The constitution is clear. If you disrespect the orders of parliament, the consequences are there.
Afenyo Makin is the deputy majority leader. Let's go on to the phone lines now. We're joined by private legal practitioner Nanaije Bafwe. Thank you very much, sir, for your time here on Top Story. You had there the deputy majority leader say that this is well within the law. You agree with him? Hello, sir. Can you hear me?
Hello. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. We can hear you now. The deputy majority leader insists that this is well within the purview of Parliament to direct the Attorney General to ensure that this directive of Parliament is carried through. You think this is founded?
Very respectfully, it may well seem that it's clearly in its conception of the law. First and foremost, let me say good evening to your listeners. You see, the Republic of Ghana is a nation that is created or founded by law. The General Legal Council is an organization or institution that is also the creator of statutes. Now, when an organization or institution is one that is created by statute, it is under strict obligation to comply with the dictates of statute. And so, therefore, when they breach any aspect of the statute, then they are under law required, or they are by law required to remedy it. The fundamental question that would confront all of us in view of Parliament's action today will be whether or not the General Legal Council is under obligation to work according to directives of Parliament. In other words, whether or not it is well within the power of Parliament to direct the General Legal Council. My simple answer to that, very respectfully, my humble opinion, is that I'm yet to come across a law, right, that obliges the General Legal Council to comply with the directive of the of Parliament in the manner which they have done today.
But Mr. Bafwe, right? The directive, if you had the speaker, was to the Attorney General, who I believe the law explicitly states can direct the General Legal Council on matters of the School of Law. And the directive is to him to enforce Parliament's directive. Is that not legal?
The question is also whether or not the Attorney, first and foremost, Parliament is also under an obligation to direct the Attorney General in the manner which they have done. Therefore, the Office of the Attorney General is itself a creation of statute. In fact, the Office of the Attorney General is established by the Constitution of Ghana.
But Parliament should exercise oversight over the Ministry of Justice and the Office of the Attorney General.
The question is whether or not the exercise of oversight means given directive or implies or includes the giving of directive. My answer to it is no. I think that what has happened today, for me, in my humble opinion, right, is a clear misconception of the powers of Parliament. I don't think that it's as though, let me give you an example. It's like Parliament saying that it passed the directive to compel the president to do an act or the other, to do one act or the other. I don't think that it is founded in law. And so I don't think it is something that would wash. Look, not even the courts of the Republic of Ghana, have the power to grant immunity for the breach of a statute. And so therefore, I don't see where and how this is founded in law. It's clearly a misconception of the powers of Parliament, under our Constitution, or the relevant act or statutes that we are talking of. Look, when you look at certain statutes that create certain institutions, you can find in there the power, for instance, of the relevant Minister of State, right, with supervisory powers. The power to say that, the power to give directives in terms of policy, right? But I'm yet to come across any such law in our country that gives Parliament the power to give directives or, to give directives to an institution or a ministry or agency to do one act or the other. I don't think there's any such law. And so even by parity of reasoning, clearly you see that what Parliament is doing is not founded in law. You see, it is very important when it comes to the issues of law school for us to take out populism. I think that we need to find a pragmatic solution to the problem. What confronts us as a nation, right, for me are two issues. One, the issues of lack of transparency. Let me put it this way. The issue as to the nature and scope of the standards we have in terms of our legal education, right, which is battling with the desire of people, who want to have legal education. Look, all over the world, when it comes to legal education, there are very strict standards that are put in place. The reason being that the person who becomes a lawyer today will become your judge tomorrow. And so when he is a lawyer, that person is representing people, right, in matters that affect their personal liberties, matters that affect their right to assets, in matters that affect, if you like, their right to life. Okay? And then when they become judges, okay, they are making pronouncements in respect of people's lives, people's right to liberty, and people's right to assets. Okay? When they find themselves in public service, they are playing key roles for, towards the development of this country. So for a profession such as the legal profession, it is not one that you can compromise on standards. Okay? Yeah. When you go to different jurisdictions, the standards are there. You go to America, for instance. Look, nobody walks straight after first degree, right, to go and say he wants to do law. There are standards. You have to write the law school admission test and so on and so forth. They have their own standards. Look, even if we were to limit ourselves to the African continent, particularly among the Commonwealth countries, they have their standards. Look, as we speak, Kenya, they have instituted a committee, a public policy research committee of Kenya, right? It's recommending stricter standards in terms of legal education in the country, in Kenya. And when you check why they are making such demands, particularly where for the last 3 years, the pass rate is very low. Go and check. From 2017 coming, the pass rate in Kenya has not been more than 25%. Yet they are saying that, look, we need to improve upon standards, right? And they are recommending standards. Let's go to a place like England. Okay? the English economy is far bigger than the Ghanaian economy. The English population is far bigger than the Ghanaian population. But on a year-to-year basis, the number of people who get to actually practice law, right, are less than 1,000 people.
And that debate continues, Mr. Bafwewa. But the substantive issue which has generated this or necessitated this directive from Parliament has to do with the 499 who believe they passed the exam but have been denied admission into the Ghana School of Law because of what the law school says is their failure to meet the standards set for the exam. You're saying that even the case which is currently in court, which is being pursued by these students, will fall?
No, I haven't said that. Look, these matters have become very sensitive matters in this country. And so whenever you have an invitation to speak to these issues, it's important not to come across as an insensitive person. Yeah. And so I want everyone listening to me to know that, look, I sympathize with them. However, there is the need to interrogate the facts of this matter, particularly ask ourselves whether or not at the time when the exams was being written, the standard which the law school is holding on to was one that was enforced and was known to people. If that was the case, then it is consistent with Article 23 and Article 296 of the Constitution. In other words, they are not being capricious, they are not being arbitrary. But if that was not the case, then there is an issue. And because it is a matter which is sub judice, I'm constrained from speaking to it.
Very well. Now, Mr. Bafwewa, I want you to hold the line.
It's very important that I'm not interrupted because I will lose my chain of thought. It will come up. I might not also finish my argument.
If you could just wrap up on this one for me, I'll be grateful because we're joined by... Yes, I'm saying if you could just wrap up on this one for me, I'll be grateful because we're joined by a member of Parliament, Mahama Yariga, on this. Would want to have his thoughts as well on this issue. So you could just wrap up for me, sir.
Okay. So what I'm basically saying is that what we need in people is to now confront the problem we have and make sure there is reform. What kind of reform are we asking for? The reform we are asking for should not, is it the one that we desire to have everyone satisfied, i.e., if I finish my LLB, there is an automatic admission to law school. It is never like that anywhere in the world. It is never like that.
Very well.
So we need to be very careful in terms of our approach. Let's sympathize with everybody, but there ought to be transparency in terms of the system. That's what I'm saying. There ought to be transparency in terms of the system. Sure. If I'm going to write a law school admission, if I'm going to write an admission test, or if I'm writing my final exams as a law student, as a student of the Ghana School of Law, I should know what is involved. What is the pass mark? What is the pass mark? What is the marking scheme? What is required of me, right, ahead of time? That, for me, is consistent with the philosophy behind the laws of the Republic of Republic of Ghana. Because the laws of the Republic of Ghana require certainty and predictability.
Mr. Bafwewa, I'm grateful that we have to end this here because I want to quickly pick the thought of the Member of Parliament for Bawku Central, who was quite vociferous on the floor of Parliament today on this directive from the House. Mr. Ayariga, I'm grateful that you could join us here on Top Story. We just heard from private legal practitioner Nana J. Bafwewa, who says he disagrees that Parliament actually has the authority, the power to direct the General Legal Counsel on this matter, albeit through the Attorney General.
Good evening to you and good evening to your listeners. I'm sure as lawyers, if the General Legal Counsel disagrees with us, they know what steps to take. But for now, I think that is the position of Parliament. The position of Parliament, simply put, is exactly what he has emphasized, which is the need for predictability, the need for fairness, the need for transparency. And Parliament was moved by the understanding that the students were given a pass mark and they worked towards the pass mark. They obtained the pass mark and they were not given the opportunity even after they had obtained the pass mark. And Parliament simply took a position that the law school should go according to its own standards. Now, if there's evidence to show that the students were wrong, there's evidence to show that the pass mark is not what was advertised to the knowledge of the students and etc. I think that the law school can present that evidence. But for now, Parliament was moved by what we all know publicly to be that the pass mark was advertised and students acted according to the pass mark, and the law school seems to be changing its own stance on the matter. So that's basically why we took that hard stance.
But the Ghana Law School has insisted that it actually maintains that what it put out in October was actually what was supposed to be the pass mark for this particular exam. Now, in the event that the General Legal Counsel agrees with private legal practitioner Nana-J. Bafwewa that the House does not have the authority to direct it on these matters, what could possibly happen?
I think that the General Legal Counsel, made up of senior lawyers and judges, they definitely know what the implications are if Parliament acts wrongly and where to go to have Parliament told that it has acted wrongly. But they also know the implications of not acting according to a decision of Parliament. So I'm sure they will tread cautiously in terms of how they respond to the position of Parliament on this matter.
Now, beyond the legal issue of who has the authority to do what, we've heard from President Akufo-Addo in his recent interview on Peace FM say that there's actually no space for them. So whilst you insist and agree that Parliament has the power to direct the General Legal Counsel to admit these students, the administrative question of space comes up. How is that addressed?
That is not the issue before us. The issue before us is not one of space. The issue before us is being told that a pass mark is 50, and then I worked towards the 50% pass mark. I obtained a mark above the 50, and then I'm denied the space. That's the issue. When we were students at the University of Ghana Faculty of Law, we were told that only 40 students will be offered LLB at the end of first year university exams. And at the end of the year, it didn't matter what mark you obtained. If you were among the first 40, you got into the LLB class. So we worked towards being among the first 40, not towards getting 50%. You could get 80% and still not be among the first 40, depending on how well every candidate in the examination performed. And so once you did not fall into the first 40, you will not fight the faculty because you got 80% and still did not fall within the first 40. So it's the question of what the rule is. I don't think the students are fighting because they have been denied space. They are fighting because they've been told that if you got above 50%, you will be given space. And they got above 50% and they are being denied space. And we think that is not fair. So that is not the issue. The issue is not what President Nana Akufo-Addo is saying is the issue. I don't think the students are fighting because of that. No.
On your directive,
we can deal with the space issue in a different way. I mean, I heard him say it is nowhere in the world a position that once you finish your LLB, you're entitled to go to law school. We can actually address that and say, look, if you finish LLB, you are entitled to go to law school. But then you are not entitled to become a lawyer after the bar exams because, everywhere in the world, we know that every trade and profession tends to regulate the number of people who get into it. You can use the final bar exam as a regulation mechanism. But as for the opportunity entitlement to go to law school and be given the opportunity to write the exam, that should be given to everybody who has, the LLB degree. That can be done. We can simply liberalize the system in such a way that, universities and other faculties can have their own law schools once they meet the criteria of the General Legal Council for running
and trained
law
students.
But then at the end, they all write the bar exam. It is at the bar exam level that you can be a regulator of how many people can or should be admitted to the bar every year. And that should be known, to students that, we're taking only 300 a year. So try to be among the first 300, not to pass a particular pass mark.
Now, on the directive that you have issued to the Attorney General and the General Legal Council, are you working within a particular time frame that you expect that these directives will be heeded?
Our assumption is that they will work towards ensuring that the students are part of this year's academic program, because during the debate, we're made to understand that lectures have not yet begun, and therefore it won't be too late for the law school to admit the students who made the pass mark. We also raised the issue of finances. If the issue is space, as the President indicated, in keeping with the requirement of fairness, we thought that as a parliament, we're willing to work towards increasing the budgetary allocation to the law school to be able to admit and provide training for the additional number of students. So whatever the problem, we are willing to, as a house, work with the law school to be able to address that space constraint. But we feel that the issue of fairness, justice, must prevail in this country.
This directive is not a permanent solution to the problem at hand. Are you considering the legal option of either amending law or passing legislation to deal with this in the long run?
But, Parliament, we pass laws, but then also, historically, those who understand the workings of Parliament also takes petitions and addresses questions of injustice and unfairness to citizens. So there are two things that Parliament does. Just that historically in Ghana, we haven't taken advantage of Parliament's capacity to take on petitions and then, direct fairness to citizens. So that is one thing that I think has happened today, an opportunity to deal with that issue. Now, on the more permanent question of, the issue of dealing with the broader question of, access to professional legal education, we have told the General Legal Council countless times in Parliament, and I recall I was chairman of the Subsidiary Legislation Committee when they brought their regulations to be passed. The issue came up about having access to professional legal education, and we advised them to bring to Parliament a proposal for liberalizing professional legal education training so that, as many law faculties as possible could run their own law school programs, and they can, put together a stopgap measure at the end, which is at the bar exams point. There must be some regulating the numbers. We agree, but then you can decide that you are placing it at the entrance into law school, but then that becomes quite unfair to students. Or you can place it at the exit, which is common. Like in the U.S., you finish law faculty, you go and study on your own, and then you go and write the bar exams. At the bar exam level, if you fail, you hardly have anybody to question. So you can do that so that everybody is given an opportunity to pursue a professional legal education program, but you don't have an automatic right to become a lawyer simply because you have pursued a professional legal education program. Well. You must have a filter somewhere, we agree. But I think that it will be waste, because as we speak now, Ghana is losing a lot of money because we have put the filter at the point of entry into the law school. So people go outside the country, to the Gambia, to Rwanda, to so many places in the world. and rather, spend their money there trying to get into a law school, and then come here and now try to get into the profession. So you can actually keep that money here by giving them the opportunity to run a professional legal education program here, pay the money to the system here, but not be guaranteed an automatic entry into the legal profession.
Mr. Aga, we'll have to leave it here because of time, but I'm grateful that you could join us here on Top Story. That's the Member of Parliament for Bako Central, Mahama Yariga. That's it for Top Story, brought to you by Vodafone. Together we can. Ghana Connect with Evans Mensah continues after this.
For the grace of God to fill them, because they're your sisters and brothers in Christ.
That, by the way, is Justin Welby. He is the Archbishop of Canterbury and the symbolic head of the Anglican Church worldwide. Tonight, same Bible, different interpretations on the hugely controversial gay rights question and the Ghana anti-gay bill, which is now threatening to break the front of the Anglican Church in Ghana and its wing in the United Kingdom. Now, Justin Welby, the Archbishop, you just heard there, who of course is the